Hey there, it's Pete over at the Sampleist, and today we are checking out Hemisphere by Fracture Sounds. Hemisphere is all about ambient cinematic guitars with the emphasis on soft and delicate playing. This 12GB NKS compatible contact player library contains over 50 production ready presets and an absolute ton of ways to customize your guitar sound. At the moment, the library sells for £69, including VAT. However, after April the 4th, when the intro price has finished, it will be £99. In this video, I'm going to do a quick overview of Hemisphere, and we're going to hear what it sounds like out of the box, and then I've put it into a composition, and we're going to talk about what is the experience of composing with Hemisphere. So without further ado, let's just jump in. I've loaded up Hemisphere in Komplete Kontrol as it is an NKS library, and the first patch is called A Safe Place, and it sounds like this. Fairly emphatic G major chord twin there. It is gorgeous, and I'm a guitarist and I do record a lot of ambient guitars, and what I love about Hemisphere, it is so clean. So right across the playable range of the guitar, the sampling is pristine. And when you're working with ambient guitars, obviously because you've got lots of echo and reverb going on, every minor sound is emphasized. But because this is so clean, it's just a joy to play. You're going to have really clean ambient guitars. Now, if you are used to other Fracture Sounds libraries, so I use the keyboards or the pianos a lot, so Glacier Keys, Midnight Grand, Worcester Piano, and the GUI is generally the same, so it's really good news because all of their instruments are very, very consistent. And you have your mixers for your atmospheres over here. We've got guitar tone. You can change the atmosphere intensity on the mod wheel, so I'll just... So you can make it really moody and atmospheric, or you can have it less moody and atmospheric. So nice and straightforward. So that's the atmosphere intensity. You can emphasize the transients. Or de-emphasize them. So it's almost like acting like an attack. Then we've got colour. So I'm just going to go back somewhere in the middle. Fret noise. If you want to get rid of any fret noise, I love fret noise. It sounds very, very natural, but for production music reasons, you may not want fret noise. And you can click on the cogwheel and add sort of more ways to control the fret noise. Got lo-fi. Sounds great. And of course you can adjust that even more on the cogwheels. Let's go turn that down. Then you've got echo. And you can adjust the type of echo, the time, saturation, damping, and feedback. Very, very cool. And then you've got reverb. And reverb's got a really, really cool feature. First, turn the echo off and play the guitar completely dry. I say it's completely dry. We have got the atmospheres working, but that's pretty dry. Now, let's say we want quite a nice big reverb, but we don't want it straight away. And there's this amazing fade in. So if I turn that all the way up, it's like an attack for your reverb. So you can have a dry guitar pluck or a dry-ish one, and then you can sort of gradually fade in reverb. And I love that feature. Obviously, we can automate our own reverbs using third-party plugins, but I've not really seen it in an instrument before. So that is very, very cool. And of course, you've got different types of reverb. So shimmer. I'll play some in minor. It's absolutely lovely. So in the intro, I talked about there are stacks of ways to control or shape the guitar sound. And of course, that is what's on the first page, as it were. So these cogs, you can go into the finer details. What I found to be amazing is the guitar tone. Like I say, as a guitarist and you're working with ambient guitars, sampling different timbres of the guitar and different pickups and different guitars can be quite tricky. But then now we've got all of these different guitar tones and you just select a guitar tone. So I've got clean harmonics. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to load up a safe place again, so I feel like it's gone a little bit quieter. So glass harmonics. Or let's say we want Telecaster clean. You know, it sounds amazing, delicate. I'm going to do one more. It was on Beefy. Let's just do Crystal. So again, I'm just playing some really simple examples, but this guitar tone is lovely. The fact you can just change them and sort of dial in what you're looking for. And you've got low cut and high cut. Just quickly do that just for argument's sake. It's not an argument. Just to display what a low cut does. So turn that up and we're taking away the bass. And then high cut does the same, but for the treble. But you can make really delicate, soft sounds. Oops. Played two notes at the same time there. Terrible. But yeah, so you have the timbre shift as well. I was going to just take away those. So it's just really tiny changes in the timbre. And then you have this air control. And we'll go back to the layer mixer, but I'm seriously impressed with the guitar tone controls you have. And then we have atmospheres. If I just turn all the atmospheres off and the reverb, we've got our clean guitar. In fact, again, so I'm doing everything just based off the first patch. I could just turn off the atmosphere intensity actually. Okay, so we've got a nice dry guitar. Whoops. Okay, if I just turn those on and I'll turn the raw off. That's the atmosphere you get underneath. So it's quite subtle. You can obviously adjust the levels, or you can have just the vivid, for example. Whoops, don't to do that. Just turn off. That's vivid. Abyss. And fathom. And of course, you can bring the raw down a little bit in the mix. It's going to bring up the intensity, which is on the mod wheel, by the way. The sheer amount of options to tweak your sound are brilliant. And if you don't want the atmospheres at all, then just turn them off. You don't need them at all. So yeah, nice and straightforward. So I love the GUI, and if you click on the cog wheel here underneath Hemisphere, you can adjust velocity response. Now in NKS, in Komplete Kontrol, one of the advantages is you can set your velocity curve for your controller anyway, but it's great that you can do this in the instrument as well if you're not using NKS. Pitch bend mode, whole keys only or standard. You can adjust when the sample starts, depending if you're working on the grid or not. Got a pitch bend range. So you can adjust that if you're using the pitch bender. It's quite cool. And then noise mode, always on, and atmosphere, decay naturally or sustain infinitely. I'm actually not using a sustain pedal to play any of these, but you can sort of treat it a bit like a piano type keyboard. But that is Hemisphere. Now, one thing I haven't done is talked about these over 50 presets. I've turned off the previewer. You can hear it there. So it can get quite messy when you're playing through some patches. And of course, you've got guitars, plucked strings, soundscapes, synth pads. So I'm actually going to work backwards and start with some synth pads and just play what they sound like. Now these are a little bit quieter, so also bring them up a little bit more. Absolutely gorgeous. Num voices. And you can see the loading time is super quick. And let's just do undercurrents. Absolutely love the pads. And then we got some soundscapes. Now you'll notice there's a little bit of crossover. So I think there's just two others. Yeah. There are two extras and I'm trying to work out where they are. Okay, so I'm just going left and right. Oh, okay. So soundscapes, you can choose between heavenly and hypnotizing. Then we've got plucked strings. Let's just go bright. Let's go crystal caverns. And I love the more designed ambient guitars. Just sounds gorgeous. Distant memory. And that's a good example of different sort of timbres. Now if I bring the colour down a little bit. Yeah, it sounds great. Let's go. Hemisphere is like a standard patch. And it's a good place to start if you're crafting your own sound. Let's go in my room, why not? Love that sound. There's no atmospheres there. Old school. Let's try that. Brilliant. And reverse time. And then we have a guitar, and it's the same idea there, where some of the soundscapes and synth pads overlap, the pluck strings and guitars do. Let's go twang. Whoops. Brilliant. And I'm going to leave it there. The reason being, part of the fun is just playing through these presets yourself and working out what you want. But you can hear there's a cross section of different types of sound. You've got massive ambient, ethereal soundscapes, and you've got some close guitars. You've got like more twangy guitars. And again, you can just play around with the guitar tone until you've got a sound that you want. But in terms of value for money, you've got so many different timbres and different guitar styles. It's going to be one of those instruments you can put into lots and lots of different genres. And now we are going to move over to the composition. I've composed a piece which is cinematic tension, and it still does use plenty of ambient guitars, but I've tried to mix up the different timbres. And there are 8 Hemisphere tracks throughout the composition, and I've used a bunch of other instruments from elsewhere, but these are mainly basses and drums and pulses, so instruments that Hemisphere obviously doesn't have. And we're going to talk about what is Hemisphere like to compose with and how easy is it to use it in a project. So without further ado, here is the composition. It's a really simple 3-part composition, and working with Hemisphere is all about stacking up different guitar timbres. And Fracture Sounds have made that really, really easy for us by sampling all of those wonderful tones. To start off, I wanted something that I could play a left hand simple chord, a fifth, and also a melody on top. Distant Echoes was the first guitar that I found that really fit that criteria. It's an instant mood setter, and you have all those atmospheres going on, and you've got the fret noise, and it's using harmonics. It just sounds gorgeous. So Distant Echoes was where I was going to start, and then I just wanted some pads to go on top of there. So I use Frostline. And Reverse Time. And combining those two, you just get a really sort of thick but dreamy pad. So I think those two are a great place to start with the pads. I'm going to add a few more later. And underneath, I just put this safe place, which is kind of like a counter part. It's not really a melody, it's just playing octaves. And even though I'm using other instruments like basses to sort of fill out the sound, the power and the ambience of Hemisphere is, you know, it's just right there straight away. So if I take out the other instruments and just play the Hemisphere from the start. It just sounds like an ambient track, and I'm only using 4 instances of Hemisphere there, so I'm absolutely loving what I'm hearing. Then for the second section, I wanted to still have a lead guitar, as it were, so I chose Nightfall, which is a different tone. So it's very soft, and then on the right hand side I sort of played some bass notes. It's just a D going all the way through, but you can hear how those two work. So we got a little bit of spread there, and I've added Frostline, but I also added Ocean Waves, which is another pad. So I've played both pads together. It's just a gorgeous ambient bed. So if I just play the Hemisphere parts just from the start of the section. And then we're in with the final section. But of course, in the middle section where it's just holding a D, if I just play the underscore as well. The other instruments are building that tension, but it's like an ambient tension. It's great. And then just to add a bit more variation, I've got some glassy harmonics. And then I've reintroduced other pads from previous sections, or the same pad, sorry, and I've got a small amount of Nightfall still playing in the left hand, so it's the bass, so it's panned to the right, but it's in the left hand, and Distant Echoes has taken back over. So if I was play just this section on its own. Absolutely wonderful. Really, if I played this track, just the Hemisphere parts, and mix it down and sent it off as an alternative mix, you've got an instant ambient mix of your work. It's really, really cool. It does sound incredible. And of course, if I just play that last section with the underscore, you can hear all I've added underneath is some bass, and I've added some sort of pulses and slightly more aggressive drums. So I'm just going to play it just to the end so you can hear the final section. And there is absolutely no processing going on. It's just straight out the box. There's nothing on my master chain, and it just sounds gorgeous. It's so difficult as a guitarist to get these really, really clean ambient sounds, especially when you're working with delays, because obviously it will pick up any extra noise you might have made when you're picking up, working with reverbs. It's just so clean and so wonderfully sampled, and that makes this instrument worth the price of admission alone. But of course you've got all the presets, and the presets are different sounds, different timbres, different tones, different effects, and you've got all that to work with straight out the box. But of course there's nothing better than loading up the Hemisphere instrument patch and just working out your own guitar tones and seeing what you like. But for jumping off points, in fact, not even jumping off points, these are presets that I've not even tweaked or touched and would use in a final production with absolutely no second thought. My closing thoughts about Hemisphere, really, it's all down to, do you need some gorgeous ambient guitar samples in your composing toolkit? If you do, then it is a great library to pick up. It's so atmospheric and it just has instant ambience going on. If you're a guitarist like myself and you just don't want to do it yourself in terms of sampling because it can be quite intricate, can be quite tedious, then once again I really, really recommend Hemisphere. It's almost like a cheat sheet for guitarists. I can't get over how playable these instruments are and how great they sound right out of the box. You don't have to do any kind of tweaking. You've got your ambience there. You can just have them as dry guitars if you want, or you can have just, you know, gorgeous soundscapes. And I love the reverb feature where you can, you know, decide how soon or how long it takes for the reverb to kick in. So you can have a dry guitar note but with a gorgeous reverb tail. Fracture Sound have just thought about absolutely everything. For me, it's a 100% purchase. I've made production albums featuring ambient guitars, and I feel like I can do that yet again. Like, this genre of music has been almost revitalized for me. So yeah, it is a huge recommendation. I really do recommend that you head over to the Fracture Sound website and just check out the demos and just see really if it's for you. But yeah, it's one you're going to get a lot of utility out of. Once again, all that leaves me to say is thank you so much for checking out this overview and composing with of Hemisphere by Fracture Sounds. If you enjoy what you heard, feel free to leave a like on the video and let us know in a comment, what did you like about the instrument? How would you use it? And if you've not done so already, please check out our other videos on YouTube. Our content is growing rapidly each week. And of course, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel. Once you've done that, head over to thesampleist.com where you find our reviews and information, and of course any competitions that we're running at the moment. Until next time, keep making that music, have a great day, and I'm sure we will speak again soon.